Reality Al-Mahdi, this channel is spreads light. Enjoy the blessed words of the well-guided Imam here on Reality Al-Mahdi. Ya Imam Al-Mahdi, Ya Ibnu Cheikh Tijani, Ya Siraj Al-Awliyai, Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh, Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh.
Ya Imam Al-Mahdi,
Al-Mahdi,
Ya Ibnu Cheikh Tijani,
Cheikh Tijani,
Ya Siraj Al-Awliyai, Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh,
Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh. Sang bi ñëpp a ngi la doon xaar ci zaman, yow nga feeñ ci Afrique de l'Ouest te di njaboot ci yonent be Seydi Ahmed mu tedd mi, Seydi Ahmed mu tedd mi.
ñëpp a ngi la doon xaar ci zaman,
Sang bi
nga feeñ ci Afrique de l'Ouest te di njaboot ci yonent bi Seydi Ahmed mu tedd mi,
Seydi Ahmed mu
tedd mi.
yow yaay xaritu Isa ibnu Maryam, soppe Ibrahima, Xalilu Nuux ak Musa, Xalifa Cheikh Tijani, Xalifa Cheikh Tijani.
Xaritu Isa ibnu Maryam,
Sang bi
soppe Ibrahima,
Xalilullah,
Xalilu Nuux ak Musa, Xalifa Cheikh Tijani.
Assalamu alaikum.
By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are sending our ziyarah to everyone here present. We are welcoming you with a greeting. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as I am used to saying what Allah said in the Quran, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. When you thank me, I will give you more. We sense it's in our favor, because when we thank Him, He gives us more. But if you don't thank the Creator, it won't affect Him. Tabarakallah, we thank Him and ask Him to accept our thanks, because it's only up to Him to approve the thanks. It's only up to Him, as He is Al-Malik, which means the King. He is Al-Malik Al-Mulk, the possessor of the kingdom by excellence, because Allah's power is different from the power of this world. This world's power is temporal, while the power of Allah is abadan. It lasts forever. That's why He is Zul Jalal wal Ikram, the holder of majesty and generosity. But He is also called Al-Latif, the kind, the gentle. He is also called Al-Quddus, the Holy. Another one of his names is Al-Wali, the guardian, the helper. You can see that all these attributes are part of his divine names. The reason why he shared his names with us is because he wants us to have the manners of his attributes. He wants us to have manners. With that being said, we are renewing our ziyarah towards the one who Allah has entrusted goodness in this life and the hereafter, through his light, and that is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah took his own mercy, placed it into the chest of the Prophet, and sent him as a messenger. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That's why the Hakim said, the presence of the Prophet here on earth is a proof of Allah's mercy. Because even though his mercy was in him, he showcased it via the Prophet by presenting him to the world. He is someone you cannot know everything about him. Nevertheless, Allah said he is part of us and he is beneficial. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. He is part of you and can benefit you all. I sent him just so you can benefit from him. That's why we cannot pay back the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only thing we can do is to follow what the Creator has said about him. Inna Allahu malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. He afterwards told us, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. And that is to pray upon him. Tabarakallahu. We are renewing our ziyarah. We are renewing our decency. We are renewing our status of disciple towards our everything, towards the one who made us who we are today, towards the one who made it possible for us to speak wherever, and that is Mawlaya Sheikh Ahmed ibn Mouhamed El Tijani Sharif, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. We ask him to accept us, but above all, we ask him to accept our devotion towards him. For tabarakallahu, it looks like what needed to be reported about this day has been said. What we can maybe do is to have some of the blessings by speaking a little. Because if you are present at a day of barakah, your focus should be to include yourself in the blessings. You can include yourself by words. You can include yourself by intention. You can include yourself by willpower. But you can also include yourself by action. Nevertheless, we've said that we will be discussing a chapter regarding the different facets of the zikr by excellence. However, it looks like we will first have to define the zikr by excellence before explaining its different facets. The zikr by excellence is the Salatul Fatiha. Because Allah filtered this salawat from the world ghaib, the Salatul Fatiha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala filtered this salawat in ghaib using a spiritual path. Those who passed by it felt the resonance. Sometimes they took a small portion, knowing it wasn't their belonging. When the holder arrived, who was Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Tijani Sharif, Allah took all the haqiqah of the Salatul Fatiha and gave it to him. It was then labeled as the zikr by excellence. The Salatul Fatiha encloses every form of zikr. From the 99 divine names of Allah, Asma'ullahi al-Husna, everything is inside the salawat. Everything associated to the names of God, also called in ghaib. Alamul Malakut, Alamul Jabarut. A portion of degree was taken from each alam and put inside the Salatul Fatiha. The 100th name of Allah, called Ismullah al-Azam, is also included inside the Salatul Fatiha. That's why the way Salatul Fatiha is able to fix a soul, no other salawat comes close in this regard. It was then labeled the zikr by excellence. And reciting this salawat after having the approval means Allah has intended to share this good deed with you. After having the approval to recite the Salatul Fatiha, with that being said, after the approval, the domains, or should we say the facets, can be found under two spiritual formations. Two spiritual formations going back to places. The first spiritual formation goes back to the place of Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin il-Fatihi lima ughliq wal-Qatimi lima sabaq nasir al-haq bil-haq wal-hadi ila siratika al-mustaqim wa ala alihi haqqa qadrihi wa miqdarihi al-azim. This is the first spiritual formation, going back to the place of Muhammad. But what comes from the spiritual training goes back to the place of Ahmad, and that is Ahmad Tijani Sharif, the holder of Khatmiya and Katmiya. In order to benefit from these two Bahru, you have to know the instructions of each. Because holding a rosary and just reciting will not give you one Bahru, let alone both. Therefore, knowing how to access them should be your main focus. The first one, going back to the place of Muhammad. You know, when we say place of Muhammad, you often hear Salatul Fatiha, and Salawat ala Nabi is praying upon the Prophet. So on your first time hearing, you think it's absolutely normal that there is a spiritual formation to reach the place of Muhammad. But if you go to the word ghaib, the Prophet has his own place, a place of which only those he has irrigated with his light have access. And what's astonishing about this place located at the sixth heaven is that when you reach the place, you hear the zikr of Jawharatul Kamal, and you are told about the zikr of the Salatul Fatiha. The Prophet has his place in ghaib. Only those he has irrigated with his light can access this place. And when you go there, you hear the resounding zikr of Jawharatul Kamal. But the individual who wants to attend is told to bring the Salatul Fatiha. At this place, beings are irrigated with the Jawharatul Kamal. But if your soul is selected, you are told to greet with Salatul Fatiha. Hence, it's not an easy spiritual formation. However, the circle called Place of Muhammad inside the Salatul Fatiha will give you orientation. The first orientation is to count the manners of the Prophet one by one and make sure to possess 7 of them. In terms of formation, the first orientation is to count the manners of the Prophet. You were told he used to be this way, he adopted this type of manners. You make sure to have 7 of these manners. You know, if you possess 7 of his manners, you won't need someone to come and fix you, because you already are kind. The Prophet of which having one of his manners makes you kind, and you are told to have 7 of them. This latter can and will only succeed. And you haven't touched a rosary. You haven't touched a rosary or practiced zikr. But since you want to access the place of Muhammad, where the Jawharatul Kamal is recited, and recite the Salatul Fatiha to salute, you are taught to well behave in this world, in order for your soul to recite the Salatul Fatiha once there. You are told that the first step is to count the manners of the Prophet, choose 7 of them, and adopt those manners. That is the first step. After adopting 7 of his manners, make sure to have the time here on earth to practice those manners in front of others. You know, you always hear a person had the manners of the Prophet, but he never had the chance to show it. That's just people trying to uplift the ladder. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when walking we should be able to see it. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when talking we should be able to see it. If we have the manners of the Prophet, when exchanging with your Muslim brothers, we should be able to see it. Your blood brothers, as well as your brothers in light. Hence, the second step is to practice 7 of those manners here on earth. You know, this is why the elders were trying their best to build a mosque, teach the Quran, educate the kids, find someone who needed assistance just so they could help him without others finding out. They knew they had the manners of the Prophet, but they needed occasions to show it. All of their trouble was due to the second step, as they knew the importance of it. Going there and saluting with Salatul Fatiha in a place of Jawharatul Kamal is not an easy task, because those who recite it are mostly hijabs. Those who recite it are mostly angels. Those who recite it are mostly Rabbaniyu, and none of them had once made a sin. And the reason why is because they haven't had the chance to step down on earth. Take a look at this spiritual dimension. You are told to enter their hadara with the Salatul Fatiha, and they have to hear you while they recite the Jawharatul Kamal. And on top of that, you have to educate your soul with this salawat before coming. Therefore, you have to pick 7 manners of the Prophet and adopt them. Then, have the occasions to display those manners. Once you've completed these 2 steps, you are told to focus on the Salatul Fatiha and make it your priority. Make it your priority. And that is to make sure your spiritual formation zikr, or the litanies of the Tariqa Tijaniya, are done on time. This is why the elders had the flu and still sat down back against the wall to complete their lazim. This is why they had the flu and still searched for a place to sit and perform their lazim. Their body couldn't handle it, but they also didn't want their zikr to be late. There is a good man. They used to tell him, "You've been practicing zikr until getting the flu. Now is the time to rest a little." He replied, "I told Sheikh Tijani that when I come to Barzakh, my lazim will be completed. I won't miss a day nor an evening. I feel right now that my time is close. and I don't want to pile my litanies as I will be afraid of not knowing what to tell him. Look at this wisdom. He said, if I see him, I won't know what to tell him, as I signed an agreement. I told him I won't miss a lazim, wherever I may be. I won't miss a morning, I won't miss an evening. He started aging and had the flu. People tried to convince him to pause, but he specifically told them, there's not enough time for me to pause, as I will shortly meet with Sheikh Tijani. To tell you, they prepared themselves until preparing their going to Barzakh. It is also their favorite. What you go through to play video games is what they go through to enter and visit the world ghaib. Meeting the souls of the Salihin, meeting the souls of Shuhada, and having a conversation with them. And they tell the latter knowledge impossible to refute, because this world is only truth. This world is only truth. This is why Sheikh, Mawlay Sheikh Ahmad Tijani said, what Allah stated on the Quran, يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له رحمن وقال صوابا ذلك يوم الحق. He said it's not only the day of Qiyamah, Barzakh is part of it. He said it's a place of truth, therefore it will be a day of truth. That's why saints will only acquire truth out of this visit. And if you verify, our elders used to tell people that if they had a dream of someone who passed away talking to them, they should know that it's true, because the latter is in the setting of truth. You see, the elders took this from here. The elders took it from here. Therefore, the Salatul Fatiha you were told to make a priority, you should be vivifying it day and night, and avoid delaying your litanies and your zikr of spiritual formation. It is said, doors begin to open from here. We are still at the place of Muhammad. Doors begin to open from here. The hidden domain is part of it. The hidden domain is part of it. A person who knows the hidden is someone whose dreams are always truthful. That's a person who knows the unseen. His dreams are always accurate. A holder of the hidden knowledge, his imaginations are always accurate. What he sees will happen exactly as such. A person who knows the hidden, his thoughts are always accurate. If he told about his thoughts in a short period of time, they will see it happening. So the door to knowing the hidden comes from here. But look at the prerequisites. Find 7 manners of the Prophet. Apply those manners here on earth in front of people. And make sure your zikr are done on time. Your lazim in the morning, your lazim in the evening. If you keep this up, the door to the hidden will be at your disposal. Other than that, it can be called hidden or vain. It can be hidden or vain. It could be from the hidden, a non-reality, or from something you think is true, when in reality it's the opposite. Nonetheless, this is the path which opens the door to hidden realities. Once the door to the hidden is opened for you, then will come the effluence of light. You hear a lot of people say, when I perform zikr, I see a ball of light. Sometimes I feel like I'm seeing balls of light. It's because the effluence of lights or fuyudats are coming to you. But the fuyudat arrive when the person is on the 4th stage. After having the 7 manners, applying them, zikr done on time, the door to the hidden is opened. Then we can say you are on the 4th stage. The fuyudat come, and you continue to practice zikr because you are on course for spiritual formation. the fuyudat when performing zikr. The balls of light consult each other. You know what a lot of people don't know. The ball of light that you see when practicing zikr, or the sparks you notice in front of you, most of them are beings created in light by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, emanating from the Salatul Fatiha. Don't ever think it's going to go away. Some are fuyudat originating from the tongue of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the Hadaratul Ilahiyah. The rest are beings created in Nuraniyu by Allah, emanating from the Salatul Fatiha, paying visit to the individual, excelling on the path of Allah. You can see them when practicing zikr as they come to pay you visit. If you maintain your zikr, they will consult each other to become one. That's why you hear some folks say, I used to see a lot of balls when performing zikr, but now I'm only seeing one. I know if he is small-minded, he will think he has regressed, when that's actually what was needed for his progression. Because when you start seeing one ball of light, it means they have consulted each other and have decided to help you in your spiritual elevation. Additional doors opens here as well. The door to miracles comes from here. The door to miracles comes from here. The door to traveling, in which clean souls go back and forth to visit intermediate spaces, comes from here. The door to having multiple hijabs, representing you in several places, also comes from here. But there is a way to organize each. When it comes to miracles, the ball of light will pull out a white glove. A white glove, just like the one worn around the hand. A white one, but made out of light, created from Nuraniyu. It is given to the wali at his disposal. He can wear it any time he wants. And when he points out a thing, it will be imammahdi iza arada shay'an an yaqula lahu kun fayakun. When he wears it, whatever he wishes will happen the way he wants. Some said it's called karama, but when it's a prophet, it is called mu'jiza. That's one of the benefits provided by this ball of light. And you see, this is from performing zikr. And not the path of looking for secrets, but a path of spiritual formation. Now, last but not least, what takes the soul and enables it to travel has to have something to cover it. Because every intermediate space has an owner. And if a soul passes by without any protection, the latter can make it back safe, but he won't be living long. That's why you used to hear the elders say, there are some powerful sirru or secrets, but kids should not learn it, or we have at least reached a certain age. And you used to ask yourself questions, but they used to say this because they didn't want people to pass by the holders of martaba, and then resulting to the latter having a shorter lifespan. This happens when the soul doesn't have protection, and what protects it comes from the ball of light. It's the path of spiritual training. Once protected, the protection will operate the soul. The holder will not choose a direction, but the light will take him to places. You know those who are close to Allah, the Salihin. The spiritual formation that I'm teaching at the place of Muhammad can be divided into two. Those who can go wherever they want in the world ghaib, and those who cannot take themselves to ghaib, but will have something to take them, and this thing will choose the destination for them. Some say they are always being taken elsewhere whenever they lay down to rest. But if you ask them to visit X intermediate space, they will say unless it takes them, they cannot go by themselves. You can see what takes them come from here. Because it grabs the soul protects it before visiting the intermediate spaces one by one, meeting the souls of the Salihin, meeting the souls of the Shuhada. And he will know that each of them pronounced dead is actually not dead and still living. From the Sahabas, Sayyidina Hamza, Jafar, you have heard countless times on how they were assassinated. But once you go there, you find out they aren't really dead and are living truly under the best of the best conditions. Because Allah gave them light. But the thing that can take you to the place of Muhammad is the ball of light I was just mentioning. When the ball of light completes the visits, it goes back. I know this lesson here. You're going to have to go back and rewind, because I am teaching you a path of spiritual formation to reach the place of Muhammad, your starting point and the requirements. You see, when the ball of light is done visiting the intermediate spaces, not the person who can go by himself. When he takes you to visit the intermediate spaces, there will be a point where the ball of light will go back to where he belongs. Because time belongs to the pole. It will go back to the pole of the time and will stay there. If he doesn't take his plug of light and connect it, then your spiritual formation will end there. Here, people came telling me that they used to see everything and they were mystics. One once told me, I used to see everything, but I woke up one day and couldn't see no more. I'm still doing my nawafil. I'm still completing my Ramadan nawafil. One senior told me this. I also don't think that I have caused any harm. I'm still keeping my tongue, but I used to see a lot and suddenly it stopped. I was confused by it. I then told him. I told him about the origin of the balls of light, because they also need an authorization. They need authorization. And he said, yes, after I've seen it all, that's why I came here. And he's right. I told him they need an authorization. They go to a point where they need authorization. You see, the reason why one of the rules of the Hadaratul Ilahiyya is to dismiss the awliya who fight with the pole of the time, it's because of this. This is the reason. This is the reason. Any sanction taken from the world ghaib is due to it. When people hear fight with the pole of the time, they think you mean going up to him and starting a fight. The pole doesn't have time for it. And I think the circle that nobody sees surrounding him is far more dangerous than his security being seen here. Therefore, no one is awaiting for a person to battle him. Fighting against him is trying to show you are the one. Trying to persuade people you are the pole. Or trying to underestimate him. When you behave this way, if your name was written at the Hadaratul Ilahiyya, you will be sanctioned and will not be going anymore. You will be talking about the things happening in there until you get disconnected one day. Then they will move forward with their organization. Now, the place where the ball of light enters is why it needs authorization. When you speak of pole of the time, we're referring to the Qutb Zaman. You know, in this country, if you wear nice clothes, they will call you pole of the time. And as the elder used to say, time has many clothes. As there is a close for gain and a close for loss. A person can have wealth in this time until everyone mentions him. But he can also go broke until everybody feels sorry for him. That's why if someone would mention clothes and pole of the time, the elders will tell them that time possesses more clothes. With that being said, an authorization is needed. When the pole of the time gives his accord to the soul, because he communicates with the souls. Qutb Zaman is a very difficult mission. because you don't have the time or place to rest and sleep. Even if the Qutb Zaman is extremely fatigued, the moment he puts his head down to rest, the second the world will start to turn, hearing information from everywhere, what concerns and doesn't concern you. And the smallest of all is the zikr, being performed by the angels holding the throne of Kursi, standing at Arash. The zikr they are performing is heard by the Qutb Zaman, holding his rosary here in the Shahada. The Qutb Zaman. He is holding his rosary here, while they are at Arash with Kursi.
Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla, wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid, wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Ya hayyu, ya qayyum.
He hears this zikr more than the wazifa performed with others. You can tell it's a difficult mission, and he doesn't stop. There is no resting. There is no I'm tired today. There is no calling sick. You hear this? Because the person is not you. Ghaib, they say, that person is not you. They say you are here, present. And that body is there. They separate it. That's why you never hear that the mission of a Qutb Zaman was late, because he had to go to the hospital. The elders say this. They can be laying down in a hospital bed, but are in reality somewhere else walking. They are taught this because it's part of their mission. It's part of their mission. The ball of light then comes to him. When it arrives, it presents to the Qutb Zaman the soul of the one excelling in this path. He will look to see what type of person he is, and if they grant him, what type of path he will end up choosing. Everything is examined. Everything is examined. I once told you about a similar story during a Mawlid. It's in the archives. About the brother who performed the zikr of Salatul Fatiha 12,000 times in the morning and 12,000 times in the evening. He kept doing it until he was shown the Hadaratul Ilahiyah on a Tuesday and was supposed to attend it on Thursday. It was then that another brother from Bur, a man of God, one of the 40 most graded saints, took the file and went to the Qutb Zaman and told him, if he attends the Hadara, this country will be in shambles because I know him. And it's true. No one goes there to applaud or speak from the nafs. He told him he only wants power. What he has right now is too much for him. Never mind giving him something extra. They took his file and didn't allow it to pass. They took his file and didn't pass it. Just to tell you, the pull of the time exists. They handle these tasks and the person concerned doesn't know a thing. Not even one bit. They disconnect you just like that without you knowing what's going on. When in reality, the people of Ghaib have already discussed your situation. That's why if they look up to someone, there is a reason behind it. When the Qutb Zaman get in touch with the soul of the latter by listening to it until knowing his ending, he will then make a decision to either grant him access to the place of Muhammad or stop him. Only he can make this decision, unless the other Hadara intervene, and that's the Hadara Ahmadi Tijani. But it doesn't intervene a lot because most of the Qutb Zaman were elected by him. Their decision is his decision. They then decide to either grant him access or deny him. If you are denied, you will still have your deeds and will still be a Salihin. You will still be a Salihin with your deeds as you are a person of light. No one can take that away from you. If you died, you will end up in heaven. No one can take that away. However, you will not attend the place of Muhammad where angels are performing the zikr of Jawharatul Kamal while you recite the Salatul Fatiha. And that's the ultimate grade. The ultimate grade. When you go to Diwanul Hira, Those who succeeded are decorated before the start of the meeting. On the 9th day of the month of Muharram, those who successfully reach the place of Muhammad, reciting Salatul Fatiha, while hearing the angels recite Jawharatul Kamal, are honored before the beginning of the session. That's the ultimate grade. But you know what's impressive about it? Sometimes a soul of a person is honored if the latter has once attended the Hadaratul Ilahiyah using his soul and not his body. To tell you, this can happen to an individual who has never attended a meeting session of Diwanul Hira but has this level of status. It is called martaba. You often hear it. This guy here is a holder of a martaba. And you say, me and him sleep in the same room every Thursday. He doesn't go anywhere. Last time he didn't even wake up early. And you are told, that doesn't take away his martaba, because his soul went to a place and was decorated, and whoever speaks bad about him will be cursed. That's why sometimes being careful with people is helpful. Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Tijani, when he knew of this rule in his tariqah, he forbade his followers to speak bad about one another. Shaykh Tijani took this decision and made it a condition in his tariqah, forbidding his disciples of speaking bad between them. When asked why, he replied, because if they do so, they would be hurting me. He's right, you are hurting the place of Muhammad. And that's finding an honored disciple, and you belittle him. You might think you are speaking directly to him, when in fact it's directed to the Prophet. It's directed to the place of Muhammad at which his soul traveled. Imagine this misfortune. That's why Shaykh Tijani Sharif warned his disciples to only mind what concerns them. Avoid talking about things they don't know. Avoid harming others, and avoid backbiting. Those who've had a spiritual formation know this. Now, after being granted, you reach the place of Muhammad and recite Salatul Fatiha in an environment of Jawharatul Kamal. You enter and greet with Salatul Fatiha. The Prophet ﷺ then stands up in his light and welcomes your soul by pulling the soul closer to him and kisses it with his noble lips. After this, if you don't always imagine the Prophet, you will dream of him a lot. You see this from some of the disciples of Shaykh Tijani, who see the Prophet in the white cloth of Wazifa and dream of him. It's because he kissed their souls. After entering the place of Muhammad, you are now decorated. The decoration happens in the month of Muharram, on the 9th day. Diwan al-Hira is organized and he will be decorated. This is the facet of the place of Muhammad and all of the requirements. The remaining one is the place of Ahmad Tijani. You are still on the zikr by excellence, which is the Salatul Fatiha. What propels you to the place of Ahmad Tijani is devotion. That's why Mawda said, Amatana Allahu ala dini nabi wa hubbi shaykhina imami taybi. Devotion propels you to the place of Ahmad Tijani. And that's the disciple who took the word and has immeasurable love for Shaykh Tijani. This latter can be certain that he lives with delight in Ahmad Tijani, because over there are no rules. There are no protocols. There is only Shaykh Tijani. He does this to the souls present with him. He looks at them while they encircle his intermediate space. When looking at the souls, it looks like they are inside a bowl of light. When you observe them, they look so far away, but they are actually close because of his martaba. When you are the holder of Khatmiya and Katmiya, anything coming to you from the world ghaib will appear as far. That's why if you observe the souls, you will think they sit far away from him, when in fact they are actually close. Devotion brought them there. When picking, he does what we do with our phones when taking a picture, and that is to zoom something far, and he puts a stamp on it. This is how Cheikh chooses. He picks one soul out and zooms it with his light before putting a stamp on it. After receiving the stamp, the person's grade will be raised and will acquire some benefits from this tariqah, meaning one can benefit from a ziyarah towards him on Monday and Friday. When Sheikh Tijani stamps his soul, the latter will be part of those of which you can ziyarah on Monday and Friday and be saved if he accepts the ziyarah. Not many can reach this level. You see, anything brought by the Tariqa Tijaniyah, there is a justification in the world ghaib. But if you follow the books and just argue, a lot of material will be unknown to you. Where is the source in what hadith replying to the latter? And missing your litanies because of it, it's not worth it. The place of Ahmad Tijani, devotion after having the word of Salatul Fatiha, his love towards Mawlana Sheikh Ahmad Tijani will be measured. If the love is there, the way Sheikh Tijani wants it, because only he knows how this love should be. One elder once said, during his time, he told me this, when I was completing my spiritual training, and I personally know him, he loves Sheikh Tijani. He said, I was in the middle of my spiritual training and had the love for Sheikh. But one day, when I went to sleep, I dreamed of Mawlana Sheikh Ahmad Tijani. He came to me and told me, I know you have love for me, but to grant you access into my place, have love for this person, and gave him a name. The person he told me to have love for is part of the tariqah, but he wasn't my guide. He wasn't my guide. He told me, I had devotion towards him, but I also had to have love for another person. And that person was in this tariqah, but wasn't his guide. He didn't take the word or renew from him. Maybe he heard about him and they never spoke, but he wasn't his guide. He told me, when I woke up the next day, the person indicated to me was the Khalif of Sheikh Tijani during that period. He told me I went to him and touched the curtains of his room. And the assistant told me, you can see him, as he said he's available for everyone today. So I entered his room and he told me, I heard what the assistant said about my availability, but I am only available for you. And the love that Sheikh said, if you pass it through me, he will welcome you. He told me on that day, I had the confirmation. You can't trick a man of God. Not going to happen. And look, he traveled from city to city, but the elder was ahead of him in everything. Because it's the place of Ahmad Tijani. He's reciting the Salatul Fatiha. He had the love, but the devotion Sheikh Tijani is looking for, he's the one who knows to whom he has to pass through. The devotion can be there. There are some who have love for him, but if you don't have the same devotion towards his circle, he will not acknowledge this love. He gave you the Salatul Fatiha, and he is not waiting for you to return the favor. Therefore, he is not going to force you. But when he acknowledges the love, he will welcome you into his place. And that's his setting of Khatmiya and Katmiya. You know, a lot of people think whenever Mawlana Sheikh Ahmad Tijani is sitting in Ghaib, the trophies Khatmiya and Katmiya are next to him. That's not the case. Whenever he wants, he goes to the headquarters of the Khatmiya and Katmiya to make it one. If he always sat at the headquarters, no one would be able to see him, let alone have a conversation with him. Because the martaba will be so far for any wali trying to get near. Mawlana Sheikh Ahmad Tijani, The rahmah in the Prophet ﷺ, Allah gave him this same rahmah. But wanting to help the awliya is the reason why sometimes he leaves the headquarters of the Khatmiya and Katmiya so people can have access to him. If he did otherwise, it would be impossible to get to him. And this Allah approves because everyone has a status. In the Quran, what did Allah say? لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. إلا بإذنه. You know, there are some intermediate spaces. You cannot access it unless the owner grants it. Only the owner can grant you access. A book is not going to teach you this. Never mind a mystical teacher. But a true educator can give you orientation. A true educator can tell you to love those whom Mawla Cheikh have, for him to welcome you. With that being said, the place of Ahmad Tijani, when the devotion is accepted, your soul will be at this place, turning every day. But Mawla Cheikh Ahmad Tijani, every day, when the mosques are performing wazifa, when the places of light are performing wazifa, when the light is flowing, he sits at the Khatmiya and Katmiya and watches. What he does during wazifa comes from here. Pearls of the rosary hitting left and right. The rosary has 100 beads. And one bead can go from left to right. And here, our rosary cannot have this type of effect. So it tells you that the pearls are different. His ball of light. And a ball of light, if a hal is inside, becomes wider. When holding a ball of light, when hal get inside it, it widens. This is why you used to hear among the elders, if one of them would get mad, people would back then notice a difference in height. They performed zikr until their body became nuraniyu. And nuraniyu, accompanied with hal, the body becomes longer. This has happened a lot. The elder that I saw looks different. Because this man here is 6'5" and he's not that tall. I went to his house and he looked way taller. It's because the elder's body is nuraniyu. And nuraniyu in a state of hal becomes longer. It also shows why the rosary of Mawla Cheikh Ahmad Tijani during wazifa, the pearls shift from left to right. This happens when he is in the Hadara Tijaniya, his headquarters, a place where the name Sheikh Tijani only goes back to him, a place where being a Tijani also only goes back to him. The haqiqa, origin of the word Tijaniya, the parasol of light, Tijaniyatul Uzna, it's the headquarters itself. He sits there facing the souls. No matter how many times you've performed zikr, if you don't have love for him, your soul will not be displayed. Sometimes he looks at one soul, pulls it closer to him, and puts a stamp. If this happens to you, you will become part of those individuals who can change people's life if one were to make a ziyarah towards you on Mondays and Fridays. But they can also have their own reserve. And that is, if they don't want someone to see them on Mondays and Fridays, they can switch. The men of God have this ability. There are some people who think, if you see those chosen individuals, automatically you will be saved. But Abu Lahab, did they forget he was there during the Prophet's time? Or Abu Lahab never saw the Prophet? He saw him with his eyes, but he didn't see him in haqiqah. And what saves the individual after seeing those chosen people is the light emanating from them fixing the ladder. And this light can only be found in haqiqah and not from seeing the person eye to eye. That's why the elders who were at this stage used to observe people who came to make ziyarah towards them before shaking hands. They will come out and you will tell them, I had so many sins, but when I saw you, it all went away. Others will respond to you, you better repent, because the person you saw is not who you wanted to meet. It's him, I recognize his clothings. Huh. They know what they are saying, because it's their reality. But you see, if it's someone who has love for them, they get out of their normal state and enter the state of barakah. That way, once they shake your hand, everything coming your way will become easy. This is possible because Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Tijani stamped their soul. Therefore, the different facets brought by the Tariqa Tijaniyya, with the sikr by excellence from the light of Salat al-Fatiha, there is a path to pursue. There is a path to follow. You see, the place of Muhammad is harder to reach. Picking 7 manners, practice those 7 manners. Go from the hidden side to seeing the balls of light who pay you visit. The ball of light becoming one, then going back to the pool of the time, and wait for his final verdict. Here, Sheikh Tijani only accepts devotion. And only I know how devoted you should be. Once I approve of the love you have for me, I will accept having you at my place. When the elders knew of this, they all took a paper and wrote about him, to express the love they had for him. They all took a pen and paper and wrote about him, to express their love. All of these songs were based on the love they had for him. One great Qutb Zaman, when he was living in the Shahada world, Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Tijani wasn't here on earth yet, in the domain of Shahada. Because the Hadaratul Ilahiyya dates back a long time. I've told the story during the time of Prophet Musa. It happened one evening at the time of Asr, just like our time of Asr here. The Qutb Zaman back then had a mission, and it was to save a village. When people asked Musa, he told them he was a man of God. Back then, they didn't really know what it meant to be a man of God. It was his time. He was saving a girl who was sacrificed by the village from a dangerous snake. He was saving her. He came with his clothes. The village was full of statues. No one was thinking about Prophet Isa ibn Maryam or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet Musa and Prophet Noah endured a lot throughout their mission. That's why whenever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam see a mission, he will show it to Prophet Noah because of what he endured. Al-Fasanatin ila Hamsin. 950 years of mission. 950 years of mission. 80 people said they believe you. The 7 remaining, if he hadn't reigned, they would have not believed you. That's why his last prayer, when Allah asked to spare the rest, he said, I'm afraid the babies inside their mother's womb will be worse. He's right, because he lived for a long time. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ sees a mission in Ghaib, he will show him, due to his willpower and determination for a mission. A brother told me from this hadara that he dreamed of Prophet Noah. He entered with the Prophet ﷺ in this zawiyah, and I heard the Prophet calling him Yashkur. I told him yes, his real name is Yashkur. His name is Yashkur. The Quran says Nuh because of the dispute he had with the dog, in which I have told the story. But his real name is Yashkur. He told me, I heard the Prophet calling him Yashkur and brought him to the podium, showing him around. One brother told me this. He recited Salat al-Buhuri. It was after going to bed that he dreamed of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, showing Prophet Nuh this zawiyah. Whenever there is a mission, Prophet ﷺ will show it to Nuh. Allah granted him this favor because of what he endured. Same for Prophet Musa. During his time, Allah saw that something needed to be fixed, and it wasn't Musa's mission, so he sent a wali. And since the celestial assembly consisted of few saints, he gave the mission to a Qutb Zaman. You see, during the period of Musa, a lot of things we are mentioning today happened during his time. It was even then that the Nawamis first intervened between Ghaib and Shahada. The Nawamis, they only accompanied Poles with a universal mission. They started visiting planet Earth during the time of Musa alayhi salam. A lot of things happened during his time. The missionary was a Qutb Zaman, but he went to the village as a homeless man, wearing ripped and dirty clothes. He came and said, "Can you help me?" Everybody squeezed their nose and ran, saying he smells funny, his clothes are oily, plus he sleeps next to a trash can. But a little girl from the crowd said that this homeless man had the smell of the most beautiful perfume. They told her, "You are going to get sick because of him." She told them, "Why don't we gather food and I will hand it to him?" They said, "Since you want to get sick, that's your problem. We will gather the food for him then. But if he comes near us, we will close our doors." But you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to save this holy soul, as this girl had a good soul. She had a good soul. But this village had a tradition to make the rain pour. It consisted of taking a snake, raised by the forefathers, then picking a girl from the village and giving her as a sacrifice to the snake for the rain to come. You can see Allah boost things in many ways. What does rain have to do with a snake eating a girl? But Allah boosted them. Allah boosted them. When the wali came, they told him, "The girl that used to approach you, she will be bringing the rain, as she will be sacrificed because it's her turn." The houses used to go by turn. Each household had to give up a girl. They said, "It's her turn, so you can now stop coming in here." He replied, "When will this happen?" They said, "Why do you want to know?" He said, "I just want to know." They said, "On that day, you would not be able to come close, and the girl will be tied." He said, "I just want to come and watch." They said, "Previous elders tried this, but the snake ended up eating them." He said, "Me, I just want to watch." They said, "Why don't we just let him come, so the snake can eat him too? That way he won't come back." In their mind, they thought they could trap him. They thought they could trap him. On the day of the sacrifice, they took the girl and tied her. He's standing next to the girl. They are screaming, telling him to be careful, but he acted as if he didn't hear them. The snake came out and they said, he will end up eating both of them. Then everybody said, "You know what, let him eat both of them." The snake is crawling. He's looking at it. People are wondering if the snake will eat him. The man then suddenly pointed his finger to the snake and said, "Hey, stop there." The snake stopped moving. The crowd said, "What? This guy just stopped this dangerous snake who have no mercy for anyone." He pulled out a knife from his pocket, walked up to the snake, and cut his head in front of everyone. After that, he walked up to the girl and untied her. He then pulled out a baton, raised it to the sky and said, "Ya Allahu kun fayakun," and the rain poured, then disappeared. Everyone was surprised. Everyone. Where does he live? How do we get hold of him? The talks went on until it reached one of the companions of Prophet Musa. When Musa heard it, he told them, "Those people are men of God. They are chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and are sometimes entrusted a mission by the Lord." They organized their session and ended the meeting at the Hadratul Ilahiyah. But it kept going. After the Prophet, Hadratul Ilahi was still ongoing. The awliya you hear, all used to go. The great awliya, Imam Junaid, Imam Ghazali, all of them. Those who became Sufi and didn't need a house or wealth, but only wanted to worship the Creator, they all attended. Some went and had a dialogue with the Creator, like Abu Yazid al-Bastami, and others who had this privilege. Even this brother with whom I had talked, I told him, the spiritual formation that I know, in which you had to go through during your time, it could not have made you a wali, let alone a Qutb Zaman. But you became one. And I know about his spiritual formation and the number of zikr he had to perform because Sheikh Tijani told me. Sheikh told me a lot of things. It's just a matter of saying what I know. That's why there is no single man of God that I can't talk about and do an audio speech on. And that's because Sheikh Tijani told me. And whatever he told me, no one can stop me from saying it, even though the majority does not want me to say it because they don't want others telling them they didn't know such and such information. Nonetheless, he told me everything about them, one by one, revealing every detail. So I told the brother, and him when he was living, Mawlay Sheikh Ahmed Tijani wasn't born yet in the Shahada. I asked him, the zikr you were performing for years with the secrets and the specified number, during your time, from what was written at the Hadarat al-Ilahiyya, could not have included you among the highest saints because there was another operation of zikr. But you perform your zikr until you were Qutb Zaman. How come? He answered, devotion in the light of Sheikh Tijani Sharif. Once I observed and knew he was the Qutb al-Maktoum, I completed my tawassul towards him and had love for him until they made me a Qutb Zaman at the night time. And when this happened, Sheikh Tijani wasn't born. Therefore, he didn't see him in the domain of Shahada. Probably in the domain of Ruhaniyu or Nuraniyu. He said, it was on that night that I had completed my tawassul towards him, had the love and sent all my zikr as hadiyah towards him. It was then that I was decorated and made Qutb Zaman. Everyone who followed the same path saw me sitting on the spiritual rank. It's true. He is a great Sufi and mystic. These kinds of elevation, you can only have it at the place of Ahmed Tijani. However, you can only excel with the zikr, that is the Salatul Fatiha. And yet, he didn't go to him to get a hold of this rank, but the sparks of the Salatul Fatiha made it happen for him. Because those who Sheikh Tijani educated in the hidden side, no one can have a malicious intent without them knowing. See, the way we know about malicious intents aimed towards us, it's the same way we know about the good intentions towards us. The bad things just doesn't concern us. Because whoever spends money for someone to write, that's your problem. Our only concern is our mission. Our only concern is the good deed sent towards us. However, here I felt, many anniversaries have passed, but today the numbers of Salatul Fatiha I was sent, even if I used to receive this many, I know it hasn't been quite a while then. Seydi Mouhamed al-Bashir, he was among those who sent me first. The amount of light he sent me, tabarakallahu. May we share this light with everybody here present and with those absent. Because the people that sent me lights, I sent them the double. My wisdom doesn't allow me to go to sleep without sending back lights emanating from the Salatul Fatiha, knowing that someone sent me some already. I would be ashamed if I do so. This person sent me X amount of Salatul Fatiha today, and I say, oh, thank you. I know he will send me more. No. I personally take care of his business like it was mine. Because the Prophet ﷺ taught it to us. That's why he was tired. Whoever wished him good He wished you thousands of even more goodness.
yéene na la junneem wala lu ko ëpp moo tax
That's why willpower is important, as well as commitment and determination.
rek moo am solo te loolu
That's what has brought us together. But those who are with us, like I used to say, are good people. People admired by Sheikh Tijani Sharif. That's why what remains of your life should be just forgiving others. Because there is a type of level, if you reach it, you can only just forgive. You cannot possess something precious and still worry about fighting back. Because if it's the work, you haven't produced that amount. Therefore, when you have this precious thing, you can only forgive. There are only good people over here, people who Sheikh Tijani pronounced their names. And he doesn't speak about someone who doesn't have commitment towards the tariqah. He talks about a handful of elders here. Even Khalifa Hussein Njai here, he's very kind. Not even Sheikh, but many saints come to me and tell me about him. And we felt in him that his life revolves around organization. And reaching this status is not easy. He reached a point where he doesn't have a life anymore. His life is this hadara. And those who attest, maybe he never even met them in his life. They attest in ghaib to tell you nothing escaped them. That's why every day, do your obligations, have the love, have the willpower, and don't worry about the rest. Am I being talked about? Did I do the right thing? Everything is here on file. What we've said, what we haven't said, what we haven't talked about. But tabarakallahu, they know how to recognize good individuals. You come across a man of God, passed away years ago. You even think they don't know much about what's going on. They often come to me and say, "Where is Khalifa Hussein Njai?" And I tell them which one, wanting them to clarify. And they say, "Al-Kawliqiyu." When I know in fact who they are referring to. But wanting to make the conversation even better is why I ask them. They tell me he has an amazing drive. A very driven person. Someone like this, tabarakallah. His life is blessed. If he were to pass, he will be blessed. And will also find blessings where he goes. They never say something about a person and then turn around to say they were wrong. Before they speak on anything, your whole life is computerized in front of them. They look at everything. That's Ramzu Shahada, you know. And Ramzu Shahada, whenever the file is set, you can know how many years the latter has left. There is no bigger attestation than that. And numbers of disciples among us have this privilege. However, to obtain it, you will have to utilize your willpower. Because a missionary will always be a missionary. Following a missionary is different from following a guide. If you always want to live under excellent conditions, then find yourself a wealthy guide and make him your wasila. Whenever you see each other, turn on the air conditioner, drink tea, and worship Allah. Nothing wrong with it. But following a missionary will require some sacrifice. And the first of the sacrifice, you will hear all kinds of things. And if you wish someone goodness, you will later find out that the latter is plotting against you. And it's all because Allah is testing you. Because if there is no trial, you will not have the merit. No prophets or saints came on earth and received good deeds without being tested. And their trials are not coming down upon us anymore. Same as for the trial of Prophet Ayub. Look at the way Prophet Ayub was tested and its hardship. Mawlana Shaykh Ahmad Tijani Sharif said Ayub test was so difficult that Allah included it as trials to not come down again. Just like there are grades that won't be given again. Khatmiya and Katmiya are a perfect example. After Shaykh Tijani Sharif, no one will ever acquire these status. Allah also stopped sending hardships that are too much to bear. The trial of Ayub is one of them. This is why it is hard to find a complete man of God with the illness of Prophet Ayub, because it is kept in the world ghaib. Shaykh Tijani said it's the decree of Allah. With that being said, we can note that the power of Salatul Fatiha, the zikr by excellence, with its different facets, both of the two places are reachable as they are at your disposal. What I've thought about the place of Muhammad, unless you have an issue with the pull of the tongue, if you work hard, you will succeed. What I have thought about the place of Ahmad Tijani, it revolves around devotion. And if you strive enough, you will succeed. Therefore, we have the zikr by excellence, which is the Salatul Fatiha. What remains is to help ourselves. What remains is to help our souls. What remains is to help our tarbiyah. And that's the reason why we are together. As for our priority, that is the mission. I said it everywhere. Those who are with us are companions. I'm not searching for disciples. I'm looking for companions. If you are a disciple, we are praying for you to be a companion, because I told the difference between the two. A disciple chooses his wasila to make him his guide. As a companion is chosen by the missionary. He picks out from the people who accepted to be disciples and make them companions. Because you cannot get along with everyone. However, only he knows how you can go along with him. Because if everybody knew, they will only put their focus on the characteristics. Nonetheless, people who had the chance to follow a missionary had willpower. And willpower was the only thing that brought them together, nothing else. I always admired people who are courageous. Seydi Mouhamed al-Bashir here was just telling us about how his presence doesn't benefit us. But we all know the reason why he is here with us. Because in 2017, he was there at the conference of Rifisq with us. When people realized that the speech I was delivering will wake up everyone, that being on talk shows, looking around and getting praised, doesn't make you a friend of Shaykh Tijani. And instead, they knew that the practice of wazifa was an obligation, as well as lazim and hadaratul Jum'ah. The detractors said this won't make the business profitable. Because business and truth don't go together. They did everything to sabotage, but I was just keeping an eye on Sheikh Bashir. And I noticed that he said some good things about us before the detractors started their campaign. And afterwards, then I said, this man here, we can get along. He was true to himself and didn't hide. This is what brought us together. This is why wherever we go, unless he's out of the country, I will allow him to sit next to me. Yes, because before everyone came along, you had people by your side. And Allah has a priority. His priority are those who don't mind the noise and power and believe in principles. Very important. Because everybody will be coming. So many people will be coming in here, so much so there won't be enough seats for the elders. Everybody's coming. Every seat will be filled. And some will have no choice but to sit behind, regardless of their status. However, those who are prioritized will have their seats made available as they were here before, cultivating the field under the sun. Mawlana Sheikh Ahmed Tijani had always surrounded me with people of great determination. Folks from Medina Cheikh here at the Committee of Orientation. When they came along, my revelations were probably a dream for them. It was a dream for them. Someone who doesn't have money for breakfast and is telling you that he will go to Mecca in 2019 when he's worth millions. Telling you that this hadara will reach countries such as France, United States, Canada. When I was speaking to them, we were inside the house of El Ashba at Pekin. They were all amazed, saying SK. A hadara of which the neighbors didn't even know existed. But Sheikh made them believe, and they swore in front of their families. Now their family is present because they told them. It will be as such with everyone you once told about this reality. And when this happens, as I'm used to saying, it will be too late because we won't have the time. Ask Dauda, who holds the list, how many have requested to see me on Fridays, coming country to country. Some have been on the wait list for exactly 3 months, and yet I receive every Friday. Few told me receiving 5 persons is not numerous, but I tell them it's due to a lack of time. If this present time you have to wait 3 months, then how many years will you have to wait once 2022 arrives? Because people don't go to things easy to access and at their disposal. They wait until it's too late to run towards it. And this has long time been an illness in this country. Other than that, maybe you can meet people with good decency. And they will comfort you and let you know that this is life. Because what we've taught, I believe it can benefit a knowledge seeker until he passes away without needing anything else. Just from what we've taught before the mission has even started, it can benefit a knowledge seeker. But what we've also shown as proofs should be enough for someone who is just sleeping, then woke up and saw it with his eyes. But they still ask for proofs and knowledge when it is right in front of them. The latest proof, I've said it multiple times. A person from years talking about Arafat, giving time and date. You see, people, even if you bring down the sun, they will look at it and say it's the moon. If you bring it down, they will say it's the moon. But there is also a thing they should know. Choosing not to believe, etc., is none of our concern. Not wanting to accept proofs, not wanting to accept a mission is none of our concern. We don't have the time for it. Those who believe are at the door waiting, and you want us to worry about those who don't believe. If you know Medina Cheikh and the time at which we wake up at 4 a.m. to perform zikr, you should know we don't have the time. Maybe elsewhere, but not here. The elders said, the day you give importance to your enemies, then you don't care for those who have love for you. As if you have people who hate you, there are others who love you so much that they can close their eyes. Therefore, give them all of your time and energy, because they are worth it. That's why our energy is dedicated to those who have love for us. Whenever you hear me explain or clarify something, just know I'm doing it for those who care for us. As for my enemies, since I was a kid until now, I don't have time for them. Whenever a person come over here to tell me about them, I reply to him, oh, that's his problem and not my concern.
man daal li ma concerné maa ngi ci.
I don't even waste my time. Because that's the reality. The elders said, if you pay them attention, then you don't care for those who love you. And to be honest, you cannot fully pay those who care. I know that for a fact. You see, when people want to give me a handshake and they can't do so, or when they want to take a picture and cannot do so, it hurts me. I just cannot do much about it, but it hurts me because their devotion is unmatched. You sometimes see a little kid with an immense love towards you. And when it comes to security, they don't know much about love, so they just grab hands, pushing people away. I tell them, devotion is hard. Unfortunately, they cannot allow everyone as they are doing their job. That's why may Allah assist you. May Allah protect you. With that being said, we spoke today about the zikr by excellence and its different facets. The facets towards the place of Muhammad and the facets towards the place of Ahmad Tijani. We explained the two and call it an anniversary, as that's what we can call an anniversary on the domain of Islam. In other words, no matter how special this day is, we will nonetheless pour light into the chest and souls of each one of you. We will have the intent to start the month of Ramadan in peace. Shahru Ramadan is a month of barakah. We will follow the directives given by the Noble Master, and that is to perform istighfar, perform the Salatul Fatiha I was just teaching, but above all, perform the zikr of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. The reason he gave out this tasbih is because it's the zikr that is operational for this year. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. No matter how tired I am, I will at least zikr a little before resting. Because it's operational during these times. That's why whatever Sheikh Tijani said in Ghaib, he will include it in the year to come. With that being said, let's redouble our efforts and our intent. The reason why I love Shahru Ramadan is because it's the only month you can enjoy. Have your carpet prayer and perform zikr. I can only have this during this month of Ramadan. Outside of this month, you will always have things to do. But in Ramadan, you can hide and perform zikr. That's why it's a month that I love very much. There was a time I even said, this is why the Prophet said if you know the benefits, you will want this month to last a year. It's a month of which you can perform any zikr delayed. This month is in our benefit, tabarakallah. After Ramadan, we enter the month of Shawwal. We will consult our entourage for upcoming national tours. Because the national tour hasn't yet started, never mind closing it. After August is personal. But I'm not waiting for August. Because there are emergencies requiring me to fix the souls. That's why if you have available free time, there is a chance you will see me. Now I have a new strategy, and that is going to places without announcing it. Ever since I've tried it, I've been able to do much more things while still completing obligations. But a lot of people don't want this option because they want to follow along. We will meet with Khalifa Umaru, and he will choose a place suitable for everyone after Eid, inshallah. Even though we know everything that will be happening in this country, whether it's the health crisis or the variants, we now will be moving forward amid the situations. We will follow every decision, but we will also know where to stand. What I sense is that our organization will not be delayed anymore. This is what benefits us after all. This is what benefits us all. And if you pay attention, events are still taking place. From wrestling, soccer, meetings, to press conferences. Then why would we delay our organization? Let's just organize the way they're organized until a decision to stop all events is taken. Let's just do that, tabarakallah. After Eid, inshallah, Khalif Umar will choose a place and we'll discuss our future organizations, namely the sessions of Wazifa, our speech and conferences, inshallah, as we have to find time for everyone to see. And it's gathering like this that makes it possible. May Allah help all of you. May Allah solution all your problems. May Allah renew His mercy on you, combined with the one of the Prophet. And whoever has an ounce of mercy and love, may Allah make it full and spread it with His mercy. With that being said, let's recite Fatiha, include all of our needs, and close it with Salatul Fatiha, so it can be our prayer, but also a gift to the Prophet ﷺ, as well as Mawlana Shaykh Ahmed Tijani Sharif radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. May Allah accept our prayer, and may every one of you come back next year, even though this place will be full, as lots of people will be coming. And it will be during Ramadan too, on the 10th of April. May Allah complete the rest, so that everyone here present can come back next year. And no matter how crowded this place will be, you will still have an available seat, as you all are here today. The committee should also be aware, mashallah. Let's recite Fatiha, include our needs, and close it with Salatul Fatiha.
إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح والهادي إلى صراطك الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله 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 نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور لا إله إلا الله الله نور الله لا إله إلا الله الله
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أخلق والقاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام
delloo si jàmm ak xéewal yaa imaamal muntazar yaa imaamal muntazar
yaay domine ji aduna yaay unifié jullit yi
sang bi
yaay delloo si jàmm ak xéewal yaa imaamal muntazar
sang bi yaa imaamal muntazar sang bi yaa di lamp islam bi di fierté tarixa Cheikh wante képp kuy wuyoo jullit moom sang bi yow la doon xaar
moom sang bi
yow la doon xaar
yaa di lamp islam bi di fierté tarixa
Cheikh Tijani
wante képp kuy wuyoo jullit moom sang bi yow la doon xaar sang bi yow la doon xaar
sang bi vous êtes la victoire vous êtes le secours divin sang bi yaay leeral àdduna yaa imam al mahdi
yaa imam al mahdi vous êtes la victoire
sang bi
vous êtes le secours divin yaay leeral àdduna
sang bi
yaa imam al mahdi yaa imam al mahdi
yaa imam al mahdi yaa ibnu Cheikh Tijani yaa siraj al awliyaa Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh Seydi Mouhamed El Cheikh